Welcome to the inaugural Demand Network Summit. A few years ago when we started out, we were on a vision, on a journey, and it's great to see finally it all coming together. The investment, the product, the customers, and everybody together here. So without further ado, let's kick this off. First we have Navin Chaddha. He's the managing partner at Mayfield, and he has an important announcement to make.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Amit. So I want to start by welcoming all of you. I just saw the list of people who are attending this stuff, right? And I'm amazed at the kind of industry thought leaders who are here today from like really groundbreaking companies. So it's very appreciated. For those of you who don't know Mayfield, we have done business with a lot of you guys, but with some we haven't. Mayfield is one of the oldest venture capital firms in the business. We were founded in 1969. In our history, we have invested in over 500 companies, of which 115 have had IPOs and another 160 have been acquired. So we have a long-standing history of participating in different waves. Before I make the announcement on WorkSpan, just wanted to give you some context on what's happening in the market. Over the last 7 to 8 years, we have invested in probably over 10 companies in the marketing technology space, and we have seen the importance of the CMO, the importance of the marketing organization, not only marketing, but also like revenue generating functions, how technologies are helping marketeers and CROs succeed, but as a result, how are companies succeeding based on that. As a result, we're always talking to people like you, we're talking to CMOs, we're talking to CROs, and really understanding what are their top pain points and how can we go fund companies essentially which can help them. And we're always hosting events like this with CMOs, CIOs, CXOs to learn. We don't have anything to pitch, but together can we grow the ecosystem. At the same time, we do talk about networks. Mayfield, we have been lucky to have invested in many industry-leading companies in the business network space. The leading one is Lyft, which is a ride-sharing network. We have invested in Poshmark, which is a leading network for fashion. We have invested in Alignable, which is a network of small business owners. Similarly, we are investors in HealthTap, which is a network of doctors and primary care providers answering questions for their patients. As far as the marketing needs are concerned, we have been involved with some leading companies like Marketo, which defined the marketing automation category, went public, and then was recently acquired last year. We also invested in an analytics company for brand analytics called Moat, which was acquired by Oracle. We've invested in customer identity management company like Gigia. We've invested in content marketing. So what we saw over the last 5 to 7 years is the smart marketeers are moving towards personalized, contextualized, and segmented marketing, where they have to build customer-centric marketing strategies. They just can't go broad. Gone are those days. At the same time, what we are realizing in talking to these CMOs and companies through our existing investments, the role of ecosystems and partnerships is very, very important. No one company can essentially provide a whole solution. So people are coming together and saying, hey, I'm SAP, I'm Intel, let's work together. I'm Coca-Cola, I sell through retailers, I sell through quick service restaurants. What can we go together? Similarly, like there's HP Enterprise, who's in the room, there are people from Infosys. Partnerships are like really, really important for people. And we think the next big demand and the big pain point based on our primary market research is going to be which companies are going to help companies build their ecosystems and networks of go-to-market partners and agencies. With that background, basically, I want to announce we led the investment in WorkSpan. It's a $9 million investment at the Series A. Mayfield is a people-first firm. We bet on people. Over the last 47 years, we have realized people build companies. It's not the other way around. And when you find great founders and a team they have collected, we just get behind it. And we are proud to have partnered with Mayank, who's a serial entrepreneur. He pioneered the big data space. At the same time, we have gotten to know Amit over the years. He led the launch of SAP HANA, one of the most successful launches in the industry, where he saw the power of the community, the power of the ecosystem, and brought the HANA business in 3 years from 0 to $1.5 billion. So our thesis was like, hey, great team, but luckily, which doesn't happen in every company, it turned out they're solving a problem we already had a thesis in. So there was this alignment on chemistry and values, and we see eye to eye on how a massive company can be created, because this is a pain, it's a need, and it's an underserved category, right? People are building tools for automating emails, but is that department more important, or somebody who's responsible for $1 billion marketing budget to go with their partners? So with that announcement, I want to hand it over to Amit and Mayank to carry the rest of the day.
Thank
you guys.
Thank you, Navin, for the session as well as the investment. We certainly pride in working with Mayfield. You guys have been awesome. Look around this room. In fact, the first 2 sessions today are only focused on making the announcement who we are, but the rest of the agenda is actually about sharing best practices. So, Mayank.
Thank you, Amit, and thank you, Navin, for believing in our vision and understanding how important ecosystems are. So we actually understood how important ecosystems are firsthand in our experiences. So before we started WorkSpan, I had co-founded Aster Data Systems, and in 2005, 2006, we were saying that data is going to be very important, and analytics is going to be super important for businesses to run and correct their trajectories as they go to market. But of course, people had not heard about analytics at large scale, at big data at large scale back in 2005, 2006, 2007. So we were thinking a lot about, how can we legitimize that need? How can we make that need surface up in a lot of customers' minds? And one of the things that we decided to do is we would work with companies that had existing ecosystems in data, like Teradata, MicroStrategy, Tableau, Informatica, Dell, so that we could work closely with them and they could highlight these use cases through the large established ecosystems that they already had, and therefore legitimize these new patterns of use cases that were emerging. And we were extremely successful, because by 2009, big data became a really important category, started getting covered in mainstream newspapers, and since then it has become one of the fastest growing market in enterprise, right? So we were really successful, but when I look back, I have to admit it was very hard, it was very slow, it was very manual to be working with these large ecosystems that already existed, even though they were willing and to work with us and highlight these new use cases that would have benefited them and their customers as well. So we were reduced to doing just one regional event a quarter with each partner, right? And to get the message out, that certainly wasn't enough, and it was not because we didn't want to do more. It was primarily because I didn't have the resources to hire more people so that we could tap into more ecosystems. So when Aster was acquired by Teradata, and I started leading the big data division at Teradata, I thought it would be easier now, because Teradata has an established ecosystem. In fact, a lot of data partners do quarterly QBRs at the C-suite level with the Teradata C-suite, right? And yet we found that it was hard to get more and more events going in this space, primarily because the space was moving so fast that we had to iterate on our messaging very rapidly, right? The Hadoop vendors were emerging, the cloud was getting more involved in big data, so that it was no longer big data only in the enterprise. So we had to keep iterating our message so that we could stay relevant in this fast moving market. And we found that it was very hard to get this ecosystem of Teradata to going and getting energized about these new use cases. And I think Amit had similar experiences over at SAP.
I rewind back to SAP in 2008-2009 timeframe. We were at the, a massive recession had hit, of course, and at that time, SAP was also coming through a string of, bad product launches. And when you look at a company with such a stellar history, an amazing customer base, and a growing ecosystem, you suddenly look at this and say, how can I take a new innovation in this kind of a market out so that it can be adopted very widely? And the answer was not very evident. The usual tools people fall back to was, again, email and spreadsheets. Let me tell you how important this was. This is a massively new technology. This is launching a product called SAP HANA into market. It's changing how data is analyzed. Instead of analyzing big data, it's saying analyze fast data, analyze in real time massive quantities of information so that you can in the moment make these decisions. So you have to go convince an existing customer base, let's say CIOs, of this massive shift in investment, which means we have to get the entire ecosystem behind us, right from the chip with Intel up to other service providers like Accenture, hardware providers, in fact 9 of them, they all rallied behind. They compete fiercely in the market. On any given day you can ask Dell how hard they compete with Lenovo, but on HANA they are all aligned together. So how do you compete together as an ecosystem? And that was the accomplishment that we had. So we succeeded, and we succeeded because of sheer hard work in kind of creating these personal spreadsheet-based ecosystems around our work. And in 3 years, we had from a 0 to $1.5 billion in revenue. But when you look back at that effort and see what kind of marketing coordination was required, you look at people coordinating across product marketing, with field marketing, taking a new idea to market. I know Infosys is doing this with their new set of products, for example, now. But also working with external partners and coordinating real ecosystems and going ahead and participating in their ecosystem. And this kind of partnership is what made this successful and really stand up to big competition in the space like Oracle and IBM, for example.
So one day when Amit and I got together and we were exchanging notes, right, and we said even at a small company which can move really fast, we had a hard time. And his experience was, even though he owned the entire ecosystem at SAP, and SAP was really invested in HANA, it took him a lot of effort to do. So we started thinking, why is it hard? What is going on? And we felt that this was an important problem to solve for the industry. So we actually stepped back and spent about a year doing market research, and we went out and spoke to 75 companies up and down in the Bay Area to understand how they were managing their ecosystem programs. And the first blush of answer was they were managing it this way. Right? So, and not surprisingly, we were managing it this way back in our own experience days. And there are variants of the spreadsheet that can come around. But essentially what happens is every time you start a new program on the ecosystem, it quickly devolves into tracking things, the state of the program, the state of the business in spreadsheets like this, right? So every team has its own set of spreadsheets, and spreadsheets are not that magical. It takes a lot of effort to maintain them, update them, coordinate teams around them so that everybody knows which row is happening when and whose responsibility is what. And then ultimately, the management hierarchy wants reports about how the program is going. So a lot of time is spent collecting the data, putting things together so that people upstream can know, what changes are needed and how things are tracking, right? And people resort to these tools, but they have also used partner portals to launch these programs. We have channel marketing tools to enable automation of some of these events that are going to happen. But yet somehow we end up ultimately thinking of spreadsheets as the system of record and system of truth, right? And so we said, look, it's not just the spreadsheets to blame. We still have to dig deeper. Why is that happening? And if we could interview people and say, if spreadsheets was not consuming your time, what would you do with your ecosystem? How would you grow them? What capabilities would you want in it? What business tools, business knobs do you need to manage your ecosystem better, right? And those kinds of questions were amazingly revealing. And we learned a lot of business best practices by doing those sessions. And Amit, maybe you can share those business best practices?
So these interviews were really, really informative and I call them new practices or new rules because this is really coming from you guys. Number one was the reason why people were doing the spreadsheet, why they were going through this pain, was the simple fact that they have a shared customer at the other end. Not only they have a shared customer, but they actually can multiply their audiences. So for example, with SAP, you could have your own set of audiences, but when you partner with an HP, for example, to go to market with HANA, you are adding HP's audience to it. Imagine marketing campaigns, the kind of reach you can now get with this kind of ecosystem coming together. So number one reason why people were going through the pain of doing this was reach new audiences, lots and lots of prospects. Second one was win rates. In fact, one interview was very compelling. They said every time a company gets like us gets together with an Intel, an AWS, and an SI partner like Accenture, we never lose, period. There is no CIO on the planet who will say no to us if all four of us have a combined message, a shared solution, by the way, which is pre-integrated and works for them, right? So the win rate is 100%. So imagine massive reach multiplied by win rate, which is close to 100%. There's the business case. That's why they're doing the spreadsheet, because it's worth it. And the other one was pull versus push. People are saying, why are we collecting so much? We're collecting for intelligence. We want to see what is out there, what are other people feeling, what are they proposing to us, let's collect it, and then let's analyze it. So we turned ourselves, Mike and I remember this pivotal discussion where we were thinking our going in model was, no, corporate is going to kind of create these campaigns and then they're going to push it out to the partners and they're going to run it. We learned the other way around. Actually, companies are in the business of collecting this data. They want this pull of information coming in. And the last one was we saw passion in sales and we saw passion in alliances and marketing teams coming together. In 3 or 4 years back, if you rewind, there was a huge talk around how sales and marketing can get together. And sales and marketing can drive incremental revenue and drive really direct revenue growth, and this is awesome. Now what we're seeing is companies are, and board members are asking companies to grow really, really exponentially. And when you think of exponential levers of growth, it's not really your own direct sales or your direct marketing teams. Exponential comes from the ecosystem, right? So what we observed in good companies versus companies who are doing average in their network, there is a bond forming between strategic alliances and marketing. It's no longer partner marketing is sitting on the little table there, or it's going to get attention later on. What we are seeing now is it's actually really central. That's how massive growth is going to happen. So these were the 4 new learnings that we found.
Awesome. So now the challenge in front of us was, we just don't want to build a tool that manages spreadsheets. But if we go beyond, if we want to build a system that can help people move their ecosystems in the direction they want to go to, an ecosystem that is not rigid and hierarchical, but that is open and welcoming, so that innovation that happens at the edges of some regional partners trying out new ideas in Brazil and Seoul, working its way and getting multiplied when the opportunity is spotted. If we want to give space for such innovation to happen, what should the system look like to create this kind of environment for this kind of flexible growth to happen, right? And so we had to think about and imagine and say, abandon the existing primitives, and if you could start from scratch, what would you build? And so imagine a system like this one, and imagine a system that is a network that is boundaryless, right? That network doesn't stop at your company's boundaries. In fact, your teams are on the network, your partners' teams are on the network, your partners' teams are also on the same network, right? It's boundaryless. It allows people to come together when they need and disband when they don't want to work together, okay? And the network and the system itself has ability to coordinate work across company boundaries, so that you can assign work to people and the system will remember that work was assigned and send reminders to you and to the other person and send alerts when things got done, so that you are not chasing people, the system is chasing people to do the right things before the deadlines. And imagine that boundaryless network start serving as a shared system of records, so that you could hook up your internal systems to the network, so that data could flow on how things are going at your end into the network. But your partners could also hook up their internal systems to the network, and your partners could also hook up their internal systems to the network, so that the data flows without manual interventions, and so the data gets updated as the projects are going, even 6 months after the project has ended. Because in enterprises, after you do a program, sometimes results come in much later, and you don't have the resources to go dedicate people to update a 6 months old spreadsheet, right? But imagine if that could be turned on and the data could be flowing. So then, innovation could bubble up to the top, because you could see which remote regions have been running which programs that have been consistently on the top of the leaderboard, even if that idea came from your partner's partner. On this network, if we could create security models such that circles of trust could be formed, so that data is only visible to the people working on the project, right? Whether they are inside your company, inside your agency, or inside your partner's company, or inside the partner's agency, it doesn't matter. If a circle of trust has been defined for that project, and the data would respect that circle of trust, then you could execute with the clarity that the system will ensure that things are happening at the right kind of a pace, right? So if we could imagine a system like that, imagine how high the velocity of go to market could be, because the system is taking care of these coordination and low lying things. The teams are free to assemble when they want to do a project. You could have a velocity of approving projects that are going well. You would have the velocity of killing projects that are not going well, because the cost of assembling a project together and disassembling a project together it could be really decreased, right? It's about approvals now as opposed to coordination. So if we could imagine such a system, we can certainly build it, because we are computer scientists.
We were extremely proud of this thing. So we are announcing today that WorkSpan, the marketing network, is now generally available. This is huge for us. A big applause to the team, and this is coming off a year of hard work with early clients, Intel, SAP, Infosys. Claire, thank you for being here. Kathy, thank you for being here. Steve, thank you for being here. And CenturyLink and a number of others. And you guys pulled in 70 other companies, because you are indeed going to market together as an ecosystem. And these are not only companies that help you go to market, but these are marketing agencies who actually accomplish your work. So you're coordinating work today. And through this entire early access program, we were able to fix, first we were able to actually test our hypothesis with new processes. For example, from Intel came the idea of endorsements. They wanted local endorsement in region for campaign, so that a global person can see those endorsements and then change his or her vote to actually approve or disapprove a campaign. Imagine sending a transactional request over a system and saying, hey, maybe some unknown person will approve this, and I will one day get a yes or a no as an answer. Here you can actually reach out and say, here's the reason. By the way, I have a few other people who are endorsing this idea. Now this idea has much more weight. So things like that got ferreted out in the early access program, and today we are generally available. It looks like this. It's amazing to work on a platform like this, where you're truly connected with your most strategic partners. This is, for instance, our own view, our own screen, how it looks like. This whole event, for example, was coordinated on our platform using our marketing plan. And we have an extended set of internal and external partners that we work with, including, for example, our PR agency who is here, our go-to-market partners on the marketing side. So we truly believe in the stuff that we are doing. And we know that greatly accelerates marketing velocity. And here are the kind of campaigns we've seen. We've seen over 650, actually 1,300 campaigns. And these campaigns are happening globally in 130 cities worldwide. These are not just campaigns happening here in Silicon Valley or around just the United States. These are actually local campaigns in Brazil, in Japan, in Korea, in India, worldwide. And imagine having, and Mayank, you use the word imagine, it's not an imagination anymore, a reality where you actually can have a shared calendar with your partners, all your partners, or some partners, or a specific view about your program that you care about. I remember having requests like this come from the board at SAP. Hey, can you put together what we are doing? And then it will start a 2-week exercise to actually put together a campaign spreadsheet and then create these fancy looking PowerPoints, which will be static, but will say, here's the campaign calendar. Now you have a campaign calendar. And by the way, this is real time. If a partner changes a date in Brazil, you would know because they changed the date on your calendar too. It's shared with you. And this keeps the system real time and functioning really well. And lastly, activities. So many times people make promises. Hey, I'm going to do these activities, but rarely they follow through. But now because all eyes are on it, you're together looking at the same thing. You may plan to do some, you may cut some because they are not working out. At least you can then be aligned at the local level in terms of what activities need to be worked and coordinated upon. So huge announcement from us. Thank you for your partnership, your early access customers who have really helped us build this tool out, and now we're ready for prime time. Also a big thank you to our team.
You know, we have solved the technology side of things, right? But I believe that if technology building blocks are available, the technology can open up new avenues for businesses to develop new rules of how they want to engage with their ecosystem. Whether it be innovations like, I won't fund a campaign until it's endorsed regionally by regional partners, right? Or it could be innovations where you start specific programs and guide it by not by just your executive team, but having your co-partner be on the same program, making decisions together jointly with you, and no decision gets made unilaterally. But their skin is in the game, but even more they have opted in and their voice is being heard. So there is a lot more ownership. So I believe that there is capability available now to reimagine how businesses want to think about ecosystems, grow ecosystems, curate and coordinate ecosystems. And that kind of freedom, I would love to see how and where it goes. And those would be the kinds of discussions we would love to have after this session, where we just talked a little bit about WorkSpan, right? So in the next coming sessions and in the open audience engagement section, I look forward to hearing from you, sharing our experiences. Would love to hear your experience about how we can actually go rewrite the rules and make ecosystems the engine of growth in every company.